In this video, we're going to talk about how we measure and understand fertility and fertility change. There's a lot of different ways to look at and measure what's happening in a place or a time in terms of births. The first and most obvious of that is just the count of births, but it can be really hard to compare counts of births in different countries or different points in time because there may be more people, or there may be more women or fewer women, or there may be an age composition in which you don't have as many women of childbearing age as you might see in another country. So there's all these various things. So the different measures of fertility try to hone in on the specifics. Now, we do have a video about what a rate is, so I'm not going to go completely over that, but the basic idea is that a thing happens, and it happens to someone. This is the incidence of what it is you're measuring, and this is the population at risk of the thing happening to. And the more refined you get in terms of the population at risk, the more refined your measure is. So crude birth rate is called a crude birth rate because it's extremely crude, because it's just the entire population. And births, so births and the entire population. It doesn't take into account variations that might exist in terms of the likelihood of someone having a baby, which for the most part means to give birth means being female and means being of a certain age. So the more we refine that down, the better. Coming back here to our population handbook, pages 9 through 12-ish has these fertility measures in them. Let's get to those. I just passed them all up. There we go. So the birth rate, also called the crude birth rate, births over total mid-year population times a constant. This constant just helps us interpret. So the idea is this way we can say 21.5 births per 1,000 people. If we'd used 100, it'd be per 100 people. If we'd used 10,000, per 10,000 people. Without a constant, it can be kind of hard to interpret that number. It's a fractional number that doesn't feel right, 0.02 something births per woman, and it's not actually very accurate because we have some better rates to look at per woman. The general fertility rate tries to hone in on that population at risk by saying this is the number of women ages 15 to 49. So this is a more refined measure. Age-specific fertility rate says, you know what, fertility varies a lot between ages 15 and 49, so we can get even more precise by looking at each age group separately, usually 5-year age groups, sometimes more than that, so that as a result we can see whether in one country are women having more births earlier or later, or things like that. Total fertility rate, there we go. It's a little bit more complicated to calculate. You're going to have to really work your way through this formula to understand that. But this ends up being a measure in which you say, given these age-specific fertility rates as they stand right now and the population as it is right now, what are the total number of births born per woman in her lifetime, or 15 to 49, if these age-specific rates held steady that whole time. This is the rate that you hear when you say 2.1 children per woman, 1.4 children per woman, things like that. The core of all of this is going to be finding data about births and data about your population. More specifically, you're going to want the population of women in various age groups and births by women in various age groups. Much of this we can find in the international database. So let's pop back into here and the international database. And I'm going to go back here. And I'm asking you to pick a country 5 points in time equally. You're going to do a variety of things. Some of these 5 points in time, some of these 1 point in time. So first, 5 points in time, equally spaced, 5 years apart. You want total births, total population, female population of childbearing age, and total population ages 0 to 4. This will help us calculate a couple of different rates, including one I haven't talked about yet, which is the child-woman ratio. So this is you know, again, you're just going to use this. You're going to pick your times. Oops. I want these to be 5 years apart. So there we go. There we go. I don't know if that was enough or not, but I don't want to spend too much time on this. There we go. Demographic overview. But what we want is some various fertilities. So the demographic overview will give us births for each of those points in time. Actually, so I don't even need to redo that one because that one, that's still sitting right here. Births and population. Female population age 15 to 49 is a little bit different though, so that's going to require that I get my population by 5-year age groups. And so when I do that, I can get my female population, and I'm going to have to add it up to get the total between 15 and 49. And then that population of everyone, both sexes, 0 to 4. And then the third thing that I'm asking you to do is for one point in time, I want you to have the female population in 5-year age groups. We've got that. And then we need the number of births by the age of mother. And this is trickier because it is not available here. Instead, we're going to go to the World Population Prospects, where we will click on Interactive Data. And we're going to choose fertility, and what we want, a number of births by age of mother. And then I'm going to pick my place, Sweden. You have to capitalize the names of these countries or it won't find it for you, just FYI. There we go. I don't need all these points in time. I'm just going to do 2010. And because the UN does them in these 5-year chunks, this is going to be births by age of mother over the course of 5 years. Yeah, it asks pre-select. Since these are the only ones I need, I'm just going to leave it like that. I don't need to add any more. And then I click go. This one I can export to Excel just like it is. There's a few things I would probably end up doing. Here we go. We did this the other day in class. Data. So there's a lot of stuff I don't need here. Columns I don't need. Delete. Don't need that one. Delete. Don't need that. Delete. Don't need all this gap. Delete. I accidentally took something away that I needed, so I insert. Oops, didn't need it that direction. So I need to insert cells and shift cells right. There we go. And now I can put that back where it goes. There we go. Don't need this anymore. So now I have the births, and this is in thousands. I got rid of all of that information, but I know that these are in thousands for Sweden. So 8,000 births to women 15 to 19, working our way up to the peak of 193,000 births for women between age 30 and 34. But this is over a 5-year time span. If I'm asking you to look at one point in time, female population in 5-year age groups between 15 and 49, and so on. So we need to find one point in time. So if I have my population in 5-year age groups that I've gotten over here, not here, sorry, here. So I've got my females age, this is a different point in time, but that's okay. Here we go, 2010. So if we're just looking at 2010, 15 to 19 females, we have this many. So now I come back here, I'm just pasting that right there. But this is births over 5 years. This is population in 1 year. So you will need to divide these by 5 before you move on and start to do the other calculations. So that's the only tricky point here, and it's just giving you the opportunity to practice making your data comparable in terms of time. We've made it comparable in terms of location, Sweden. We've made it comparable in terms of age categories of the women for population and for births by age category of women. But this covers a 5-year time span, and our population covers a 1-year time span. So we need to make that compatible. So that gets us the last bit of data here. And then you're just going to work through all of these things in the population handbook. Here in Excel, you're going to just keep building up data and equations until you have calculated crude birth rates, 5 points in time, General fertility rates, 5 points in time. Age-specific fertility rates, 1 point in time. Total fertility rate, 1 point in time. Child-woman ratio, 1 point in time. And then trying to understand and explain what those mean. And that is what you'll do to deal with part 2 in the assignment and a basic overview of measures of fertility.